Imagine marching into enemy country and finding only silence. No smoke from hearths, no barking dogs, no oxen in the fields, just wind moving through empty doorways. Your scouts return with the same report from every direction. Nothing to eat, nowhere to rest, no one willing to talk. In 1462, that was the welcome Sultan Mehmed II received in Wallachia. Vlad Țepeș did not wait for open battle on sunny plains. He turned absence into a weapon. Villages vanished, grain stores were gone, and wells were fouled long before Ottoman boots touched the roads. The campaign began as a test of arms and instantly became a test of endurance, will, and sanity. As columns advanced deeper, maps became useless. Familiar routes ended in ash, and safe encampments bred only sickness and rumor. Soldiers started counting days by how many horses had to be slaughtered to stretch the rations. Officers could measure morale by how much light the men allowed in their tents at night. Fear devoured flame. Before a spear was crossed in a set-piece fight, Vlad had already reached into the Ottoman ranks with starvation, doubt, and exhaustion. The silence wasn't an absence of war, it was his opening strike. The empty land. Before Mehmed's army crossed the Danube in force, Vlad had stripped the countryside with deliberate, methodical cruelty aimed at logistics, not glory. Crops were cut green and burned so no gleanings remained. Granaries were smashed, their contents soaked and trampled. Wells were clogged with rubble, lime, and carcasses so water could not be trusted. Populations along marching corridors were evacuated inland under guard. Able-bodied men were requisitioned. The elderly and infirm moved ahead of the army's path so spies found no informants. Byzantine chronicler Leonikos Chalkokondyles noted a land empty and without shelter, a phrase that captured both the physical wasteland and the refusal of locals to aid the invader. Supply trains stretched thin, foraging parties returned light or not at all, and disease took root in camps forced to reuse foul water. Every league the Ottomans advanced, the cost multiplied. More guards for wagons, more horses lost, more time consumed. Vlad's genius here wasn't new tactics. It was total commitment. He didn't scorch borders, he cleared corridors. He calculated that hunger would do what arrows could not, and he was right. Fatigue loosened discipline, bled confidence, and primed veteran soldiers to fear the very ground beneath their feet. The Forest of the Dead. When the advance neared Targoviste, the silence ended, and the spectacle began. Along approach roads and before the fortress, rows of bodies rose on stakes at uneven heights, creating a grotesque skyline that could be read from a distance. Ottoman historian Tursun Bey records that even hardened men recoiled. The smell carried before the sight, and the sight arrived before the sound of the army itself. This was theater stage for a single viewer, Mehmed II, yet every soldier was forced to attend. Vlad's set used symmetry and repetition. Avenues of the impaled framing the road, clusters arranged like military formations, an eerie mockery of the army that now had to march through them. Tales circulated that envoys who refused to remove their turbans had them nailed on and were displayed among the others. A rumor with just enough documentary echo in Saxon and Slavic sources to sharpen fear. None of it required exaggeration. The message was brutally literal. You are not meeting an army. You are entering a mind willing to treat death as architecture. By the time the vanguard passed the last stake, men were glancing backward more than forward, already defeated by a scene designed to live behind their eyes. Impalement as a weapon. Impalement in Wallachia was not improvisation, it was policy. Administrators oversaw woodcutters who shaped stakes to a dull taper that prolonged suffering. Teams learned how to raise the victim and set the pole so weight settled without immediate rupture. Formations were chosen for visibility. Hillsides, road bends, and river crossings where travelers could neither miss nor bypass the warning. The purpose was layered. First, it punished treachery and banditry inside Vlad's borders with a penalty no one could mistake. Second, it imposed costs on the enemy's emotions. Scouts reported what they saw, and fear did the work of 1,000 cavalry. Third, it challenged Ottoman prestige by making cruelty feel organized, almost bureaucratic. Hungarian and Saxon sources inflate numbers, Ottoman chroniclers pare them down, but all agree on scale and intent. What mattered was the impression. A ruler who choreographed death so carefully would not hesitate to break treaties, raid camps at night, or burn his own land to deny you comfort. Impalement thus functioned less like a killing method and more like a doctrine. Terror standardized, routinized, and deployed wherever his authority or the enemy's confidence needed to be nailed in place. The final insult. After night raids across the Danube, Vlad returned more than captives. He returned a message. Contemporary reports from Brasov and the verse of Michael Beheim describe prisoners sent back to Mehmed disfigured, noses cut, faces ruined, bodies marked so that every survivor carried humiliation on his return. In an honor culture where a sultan's aura shielded his men, this was an intimate strike at legitimacy. It told the empire that its uniforms could be stripped, its symbols mocked, and its warriors turned into warnings. The tactic leveraged rumor better than any herald. Soldiers who limped home to Anatolia spoke more persuasively than proclamations. Strategically, it served two ends at once. It spared supplies by not killing every captive, and it exported fear directly into the Ottoman rear. Even the choice of mutilation mattered, visible, permanent, and impossible to disguise. A maimed survivor was a walking proclamation of Vlad's reach, a reminder that the Danube was no wall. To commanders, it meant morale would be a constant repair job. To Mehmed, it meant the campaign's narrative was no longer his to control. Victory requires story. Vlad broke the Ottoman story before he broke their march. Vlad Țepeș did not outnumber Mehmed. He outscripted him. Supply became a battlefield, landscape a weapon, death a language, and survivors, messengers. Scorched corridors starved the body, forests of the dead starved the nerve, impalement starved the will, and the maimed sent home starved imperial pride. The Ottomans could maneuver, forage, and fight, but they could not unsee what he made them march through. By the time Mehmed counted the cost of pressing deeper, Vlad had made Wallachia more expensive to hold than to leave. Fear travels faster than infantry and outlasts any harvest. Chronicles argue over numbers and details, but they agree on one lesson. Power multiplies when it controls the stage, the script, and the audience. Vlad chose all three. Which act unsettles you most? The vanishing villages, the constructed horror, the standardized cruelty, or the insult that walked back into the Sultan's court? If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. We know these are not easy stories to hear, and we deeply appreciate you joining us on this exploration of history's darker corners. If you found this video insightful, please consider giving it a like, sharing it with others who are interested in untold history, and subscribing to the channel to make sure you don't miss our next chapter. Thank you, and see you in the next episode of Dark Lore.